Brian, badgers have been in the news now for a long time. They've been in the bad news for a long time, but bring me up to date with exactly what's happening at this point in time.
Well, we're on the very day when it's been announced that the government is rolling out the badger cull, extending the badger cull to some new areas, which is tragic news really for wildlife, for badgers in particular. And sadly, it's not the good news for farmers that we would like to see. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of the farming community has been led into this idea that badgers are to blame and we just take care of the badger population and everything will be all right. But it's actually, sadly, nothing close to the truth. The more evidence comes in, the more it seems absolutely certain that the spread of TB is all about the herd. It's all about infection and reinfection within the herd of cows. What happens is you have an incredibly inefficient skin test. This is the way they do it. You go to a herd, and this is traumatic for farmers and traumatic for the animals as well. They go there and they inject the animals and they see what size lump comes up in them. It's called the skin test. And the skin test is supposed to reveal which animals are infectious at that time, which animals have the TB in their blood. Unfortunately, it's incredibly inefficient and inaccurate test. So what happens is they'll take a couple of cows off to be slaughtered because they react to the test. And very often in the post-mortem they'll discover that they didn't have TB after all, so it was a mistake. That's bad enough. What's worse is the infected animal that they were looking for is probably still in the herd. In fact, in a very high number of cases that's the truth. So a few months go by and there's another skin test, and lo and behold they'll find reactors again, and they think, where did this infection come from? It's so obvious that it came from the animal that was left in the herd that was infectious. And we've seen this is not just me talking, you know, out of the blue. I've talked to so many vets and so many farmers over the years, and also I've looked at the science which supports this view. That even Ian Boyd, who's the government's chief advisor, says badgers are probably responsible for, you know, less than 6% of the cases of transference. That tells you something. You know, the other 94% is somewhere else. And what needs to be done is better testing in the herd, better movement controls, and actually take all the infected animals out of the herd, and then you have a chance of ridding yourself of this disease forever.
Brian, if we know this, and we know that the science doesn't stack up, and we know that the badgers that are being culled inhumanely in some cases, and we know that it's enormously expensive, why is it going on?
It's incredible. It's hard to figure out why this happens. It's a political act, really. You know, there are so many people who have invested their reputation and their future in this business of the badgers being the answer, that it seems like they can't make a U-turn. The government's own independent expert panel came back with the conclusion that this was inhumane and ineffective. And what did they do? They sacked the panel and said, no, we're carrying on without any monitoring of the pain that the badgers get caused. So badgers are out there crawling away wounded in terrible pain, and this will be multiplied by a lot now. This badger cull's been rolled out. And I think we were all hoping that with a change of government there might be a change of view, but unfortunately we've got a new Ministry of the Environment who is on the other side, you know, and is pro-fox hunting and pro-badger culling, and unfortunately there's a kind of dogged clinging to this belief that if you give the farmers this kind of placebo of killing the wildlife around them, that it's going to solve their problems, but it isn't. And I think there are signs now that farmers are getting frustrated and getting angry and realising that this isn't working. Eventually all this will crash, and history will say that this country invested millions of pounds. It caused incredible pain to thousands of wild animals, and it did not solve the problem for farmers.
That's a horrible thought. How can we speed up the process of rectifying it? What can people do at this point in time to try and address this?
It's very hard because we've had petitions. We've got hundreds of thousands of people on the petitions, which was about stopping the badger cull. We had the debate in Parliament which followed. We won the debate, and the government just went, oh yeah, okay, but we're still going to do it.
In terms of campaigning, though, you're not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. There are thousands of other people out there who are not going to give up.
You asked, what can we do? It's very difficult. I think you just have to keep raising your voice and signing petitions when they're there, spreading it through social media. Talk to your MP, get him to ask questions in the House. You can actually get your hands dirty or your feet dirty and go out there with the SABs and monitor what's happening out there in the countryside near you. You can join a wounded badger patrol. And these people are very brave because they're out there and there's shooting going on around them. Obviously, you know, it's not a nice thing. But there are plenty of people out there who are willing to spend a few evenings out there just patrolling to see that that the badgers are not needlessly harmed.
So if people want to join in with the Wounded Badger Patrol, how do they find out where they are? Who's running them?
Go to the Team Badger website or the Save Me website, and all the addresses of these Wounded Badger patrols are there. Yes, you can join up. And you don't have to join up for very long. You can go down there for a couple of nights, take some sandwiches. And
we should stress it's all legal, isn't it? Perfectly legal.
It's a totally legal activity, yes. There's nothing illegal about this because all you're doing is looking out for wounded badgers. It's a very tough fight though, and it has to be fought at all levels, and we have to not give up, like you say.